Hi, Joe and Josh from PH Tennis, and we're back to do another Versus, and this one is going to be a really tricky one.
We have two blades, the same racket. How can we possibly compare them?
Well, Josh, one of them is a 16 by 19, a more classic string pattern, and the other
is, oh, it says 1820, yeah?
It's an 1820.
What does that even mean?
So it means a denser string bed, so you'd expect a little bit more control, a little bit less pop on the strings, because the strings aren't going to move as much with that denser string bed.
Oh, so the number is about the strings.
Exactly right. So when we talk about strings, the first number we talk about is in the mains, the strings that run from the tip of the racket down to the throat. They are the mains, and then the ones that go across, what are they called, you reckon?
Crosses.
The crosses. So on the classic blade, 16 by 19, you've got 16 mains and 19 crosses.
So on the 1820, I must have 18 mains and 20 crosses.
Exactly
so
right.
I've got more string.
You've got more string
Must be
in your
better.
racket. Well, we'll see, won't we? These rackets are all about feel, they're all about touch, they're all about class. They are beautiful, beautiful rackets, and we're really interested to see how the two versions play against each other.
Yeah, so they're both the 305 gram version.
Yep.
So everything else about the racket should be exactly the same.
Yeah. I've heard a lot of chatter about some launch angle differences between the two rackets.
I'm intrigued.
Yeah, as am I, with launch angle in general, but let's see how they get up against each other. So we'll be talking probably more generally overall about the two rackets, because we imagine that some of the categories that we usually rate on are going to be very, very close, but we'll try and do our best, and we'll be going across 4 categories.
Power,
Spin,
control and feel,
and precision. We'll see how they face up.
What happens if we have a tiebreaker and we have to do it on looks?
All
All right, we won't have a tiebreaker.
right, let's get on court and give it a go. Okay, so we've just finished playing. Looks grey, still feels hot. Yeah, so we've just played with 2 blade 98s, 16 by 19, 1820. What do you reckon?
Yeah, a lovely racket.
Yeah, absolutely beautiful racket. It feels like you just get so much feedback. It's a really, really beautiful racket to play with. Coax the ball around the court. Really, really nice. Any striking differences you thought between the two? Or should we talk about the string first?
Why?
Well, just to say that they're both strung at the same tension, which is 53 pounds. They're both strung with a poly string. Other than that, pretty much spot on. Same grip size, same weight, within Wilson's margin for error, obviously.
Yeah, so I think overall, I personally preferred the 1619.
Okay.
But I'm not quite sure why.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I think when you know you're playing with an 1820 and you know that it should be better playing flat, I think there is a tendency to try and play that way, which I'm less comfortable doing than letting the ball drop and brushing the ball. So that might have an impact.
Yeah, I think there is like a self-fulfilling prophecy angle here where, oh, you've got the open string pattern one, so you should generate more spin, so you play in that way, and oh, that one should have a bit more control and feel better when you play flatter, so you do. So it was hard to try and make good decisions and play kind of normally, and then assess the rackets on their strengths.
Yeah, I think that if I was the sort of player that likes to play everything peak of the bounce and flat through it and much flat shot, I would probably go for the 1820. Simply because I felt like I had more control playing that way.
Yeah, I think this may be one of the few occasions where what you need out of your racket might actually be more important.
Yes.
So obviously traditionally people always used to say, oh, I hit the ball really hard, so I need a control racket. Well, actually you don't. You need a racket that complements your game, so actually you need a power racket. If you play in a blade is very much like a comfort all-rounder, like class kind of player frame, if you generally urge on the side of playing and needing a bit more power, you'd probably go with the 16-19. If you generally can generate pace quite well, but wanting that something to give you a little bit more control,
So I can generate pace.
I'd probably go with the 18-20. So the opposite advice almost, because everything else about the racket's the same.
Yes.
It's only the string pattern. So I think if you're looking for that extra help, then the 16-19 makes sense.
Yes. Yeah. I think you're right. Like I say, both absolutely beautiful, but maybe just worth pinpointing the style of play that you like, and therefore which racket is going to suit you best.
Yeah, I think unlike most of the versus videos, it's kind of hard to do a winner.
Yeah.
Because they are the same racket.
Yeah. But
we're going to do a winner.
we're going to try. We're going to try. So for power, Josh thinks is the most important thing.
Obviously. And I think there's no argument that the 16-19 wins out on power with the bigger string pattern, more open string pattern, fewer strings, bigger gaps, more string movement, more power.
Yeah, I think you've got to work a little bit harder to get power out of this, which again, we'll come back around when we get to control and things, but certainly easier to generate power with the 16-19.
Yeah.
On to spin.
Again, the 16-19 has to win out on spin. Same reasons the power, bigger gaps between the strings, more string movement, more ability for the string to brush up the ball.
Yeah.
Therefore, generate
Ball literally contacts more strings.
Yes.
No.
Less strings.
Less strings. Less strings. Ball contacts less strings. So, on to touch and feel. Now this is, if we were doing the scores, these would be 5s. Right,
Yeah.
5 out of 5.
This is where comfort would fall into it as well.
Comfort,
feedback,
touch, feel, feedback, absolutely top notch. I don't think I prefer this to any other racket. I think in that regard.
In terms of comfort and feel, the blade is kind of in a league of its own, I think.
Yes, absolutely. So fantastic for that. Who wins?
So personally, I couldn't pick. I would say in terms of comfort and feel, they're the same.
Yes, I'm going to agree that there's a tie. There's no difference in the frame. You might be able to change your strings and eke it one way or another, possibly. But in terms of the actual frame, which is what we're talking about, it's got to be even. They both do it beautifully well. And finally, for precision, for control, it's got to be the 18-20. That's the whole point of the 18-20 string pattern, right? That's why you go to that.
Yep.
Why you put those extra strings in, to give more control, to give more precision, and it absolutely does.
Yeah, that's smaller. Now obviously we've got more strings, smaller gaps between the strings, less string movement, so you're getting more contact with the ball, more feel, more control.
Yeah, and again, when we talk about precision control, we're thinking Prestige, Pro Staff, Percept, those sort of rackets, those pros rackets that are all about the precision, because you're generating the speed and the spin and the power yourself, and you're looking for that little bit of class, that precision.
So overall, that may lead you to think that we believe the 16-19 is the better racket, and I don't think that is necessarily a true conclusion. It's a better racket for me.
Yeah, and I honestly, I wouldn't know how to choose between the two. I'd have to keep on playing a lot more. I love both these rackets.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to tell. So it's really going to be about personal preference. So again, we always advise you to try them out. Take our advice, but remember that it's our feelings about the racket. Try the racket out for yourself. Get a feeling for it, because there is a difference, and it's not significant, but it's enough, especially if you're at a sort of level where you're really looking at the marginal gains.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's good advice. Get out there, try them, and kind of know what you're expecting, know what you're looking for, know what you're trying to feel the difference in, and then kind of use that to kind of gauge which one you'd go for moving forwards.
So there you have it. The Blade version 8. Yes, the Blade version 8 goes head to head, and there's not really a winner because they're both terrific.
I was looking at the camera, not the ball. Why? I don't know.